Hey everybody, welcome back to Bleeding Cool's weekly recap review of NBC's AP Bio, starring It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia's Glenn Howerton and Happy's Patton Oswalt. Now, I know we've been off for a little while because NBC's been a little screwy, and you know what, actually, starting off my review, I want to go after NBC for something. How they've handled AP Bio has been kind of a little messed up. They previewed it before the Olympics, and then they went on shutdown for the Olympics, and now apparently when you are seeing this, you'll be seeing this after the second episode, which I'm going to be talking about now, after the closing ceremony of the Olympics. Okay, so that's going on, and then this Thursday, they're going to be showing 2 new episodes, so essentially we're getting episodes 3 and 4 on Thursday. The reason why we're getting episodes 3 and 4 on Thursday, because NBC has also changed the show's time. So instead of it being 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's being moved up to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Because I think the new Mindy Kaling, Anders Holm show Champions is going to be getting the 9:30 time slot instead. NBC, this is a really good show. It's got a lot of potential. I'm not saying it's breaking any great comedic ground, but what it does really well. So show it some love. You're not giving me a lot of confidence so far with the way you're shuffling it around. You're living up to that old broadcast network standard belief of if they've got a decent show that has a lot of possibility, they will find 19 different ways to screw it up. So I'm hoping that's not the case for this. So that's the UMBC. But in regards to the episode, this is the second episode. It is called Teacher Jail. For those of you who haven't seen my thoughts on the first episode, I think there should be a link down below. But just in a nutshell, we always start off, as any of you who've seen my Walking Dead, Preacher, or anything else, we always pull the best quotes that we got from the episode. So I want to start off with my handy-dandy little notepad here. You'll see my lore pad is no longer in play because I've used up all the pages. So, yeah, well, again, I apologize in advance. But what we have here so far is, first, he literally leaves us alone all the time from Sarika, basically dropping a dime on Jack. Jack, I need sun chips, which plays into so many aspects of this episode. Marcus, you of all people should be able to discern when I'm lashing out. Jack, we saw some semblance of that in the first episode. Kind of makes you wonder what we've seen of it in between the first and second episodes, that Marcus especially would know so much about it. I'm going to take Victor back to class. He's still a bit slow, but that was already there. Helen, who is, and I'm going to talk about this more when we go into the quick overview, but Helen is the real big standout of this episode. Helen just gets some of the best lines that I'm not even able to go into here. Speaking of one, this is my cervix. Who can tell me the 5 things wrong with it? That line alone makes the episode worth it. You know, I may be a cutie patootie, but I'm still the boss around here, and you were flatting. Patton Oswalt's Durbin to Niecy Nash's Kim, in regards to, we find a little backstory about how they were competitive for the Glee Club back in high school together, and apparently Kim still holds a little bit of a grudge about it. I miss my little sweeties. Jack, you can pretty much interpret that with just big helpings of sarcasm. From Durbin, Philip dated the CPR dummy. We'll be talking about that when we go into the recap in a second too. And last, and of course not least, Jack, being the consummate teacher and professional, wanting to impart words of wisdom onto his students. Even though you're all dumber than me, there's still some value to your little brains. So there you have it. Now, in regards to the episode itself, there are some standouts. Again, Glenn Howerton playing Jack, Patton Oswalt playing Durbin. We also have Lyric Lewis as Steph, Mary Sohn as Mary, and Jean Villepique as Michelle. They are the 3 teachers who we've got to meet in the first episode, and we get to know a little bit more about them in this episode. They are fantastic. It's my favorite part of the episode, actually, is when Jack finds himself in the teacher's lounge and the exchanges that he has with them. And I think that's a major bonus about AP Bio. 2 episodes in, I'm already starting to really dig the supporting characters that are in play. I'll talk about Jack in a second, but again, the 3 really good standouts. For this episode especially, Niecy Nash's Kim, I'm looking forward to her return as the dog chow eating, let the dogs out union representative. I just thought she was fantastic, but I just love everything she's been in. I want to make sure I get this right. Mark Proksch, I believe, as Philip, who is Jack's buddy in teacher jail, who ends up being a lot more to Jack than I ended up thought it would be. And again, it's a little surprise I'll talk about in a second. But there is nothing, and I want to make sure, Patricia Pell was Helen. I make sure I get this correct, because Helen is just a character that I want to see and feel so much more. Helen strikes me as somebody who was taken out of Parks and Recreation and plunked here, and I say that with all the compliments that I can possibly muster. Now, as for the episode itself, again, does AP Bio break any new big comedic ground when it comes to storyline, plots, and things like that? No, it's the standard age-old, will character A try to get over but feel guilty having to sell out character B? So it's standard. What I love about this episode is, one, I think we've got comedic actors in play who are really on point. I think we are starting to get, I'm getting a sense of the kids, and I'm going to be going more into them as we go throughout the season also, because they're really starting to flesh themselves out as characters also. But the ones I named, they're the little quirks. Like, for example, the Durbin-Kim competition among the Glee Club was not something I was expecting. The part in Teacher Jail, and for those of you who don't know what Teacher Jail is in a nutshell, Teacher Jail is essentially where teachers go when they're fighting some type of charge and their union representative is essentially fighting the system. They go there, they get paid. It's kind of, I guess, a teacher limbo. Philip is a friend that Jack makes there, and there's so many things that go on that you just assume will happen that are cliched that don't, so I'm very impressed. So in the episode, Jack, we find out, and no surprise, just generally leaves his class alone a lot, and we see Durbin lecturing to Jack in the beginning about how that is against policy and that is a bad thing, and then lo and behold, what happens one day when they're both out of class, both Durbin and Jack talking in the office, which Helen reminds them, like, you two are here, who's there? They come back in to find that Victor has fallen and potentially hurt himself, which means we've got a case against Jack. Now, Jack is pretty much ready to just kind of like roll over, take the suspension, as long as he gets some decent pay and move on. But Union Representative Kim makes sure he's aware of Teacher Jail, and with Teacher Jail, Jack's thinking, I can get the best of all worlds. I can get paid, I can be out of the classroom, and I can start working on my big philosophy project. So, again, why not go for it? So that's what he does. Now, in this process, we find that Helen is taking over as the substitute for AP Bio. And there is just some really great stuff. And I do want to go to my lore book for a second as I look those up, because there's a really great segment that she has where she's going over sex education, essentially teaching AP Bio as if it's a sex ed class. And she rattles off what are three important things in her mind regarding it. The pull-out method doesn't work. Menopause, not real. Vaginal orgasm, give me a break. That, again, Helen, I am looking forward to hearing a lot of great things from as this season rolls along. Again, supporting characters are really starting to get developed, and I'm a big fan of seeing that. So we have Jack in Teacher Jail. We've got Kim, who's fighting for his case, and then we also find out that Kim has it in for Durbin. Kim thinks Durbin is weak. Kim doesn't trust Durbin with her teachers, but more importantly, Kim is still very, 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 very bitter about losing out of the head Glee Club position when they were both in high school together. So we automatically see the animosity that's there. Now Jack's in heaven, because Jack's in Teacher Jail. He gets a chance to work on his book. He meets his friend Philip, who Philip's in Teacher Jail because apparently he's a tickler. He likes to tickle teachers, and once you get the reputation of being a teacher tickler, that's pretty much where you end up going. Now, if you're saying to yourself, that seems kind of odd, keep that in mind. Philip, turns out, has an interest in philosophy also, just like Jack, so Philip actually starts typing up the things that Jack's talking about. Now, this is where a cliche thing comes in. I thought for sure by the end of it was going to turn out that Philip was some kind of jerk. He was going to take Jack's stuff and do something with everything like that. And no, it just pleasantly does not turn out that way. Surprisingly, and that's why I'm interested to see where, in what shape or form, Philip comes back. But, so we have Jack in that regards, and now, unfortunately, as these things go, you have to have a hearing. And of course, Kim, who's going to defend her teacher to the fullest extent she can, and the fact that she's got a hard-on against Durbin, she just decides to just skew a nasty presentation against Durbin, essentially asking for Durbin's firing, not even just to save Jack, but to get Durbin out of the school system. And that's where Jack has the crisis of conscience and just can't see Durbin getting sold out like that. So he essentially owns up to what he did. But before then, in typical Jack fashion, he tries to essentially say that Kim tickled him when they were in private to get Kim, I guess, in trouble, taken off the case. Really not thinking it through, because I'm sure Jack thought that was a really great idea to do for Durbin. But yeah, you're also really selling Kim under the bus. Thankfully, that concern you had about tickling, yeah, there is no big thing about tickling. That's where the comment goes in about Philip dating the CPR dummy. Yeah, Philip Philip did a lot more than tickling with not just, I guess, the people, but inanimate objects and things like that at school. So Philip's got a very interesting backstory in that regard. So again, Jack takes the penalty. I think it's like 3 days, no pay, but he doesn't get teacher jail, and he has to go into class. Durbin gets his job. Kim, we know, is going to come back to fight another day because that Glee Club bitterness is still there. And what's really, really sweet is that we get a chance where Jack gets to meet with Philip. And again, the moment where I'm expecting everything to turn nasty, and no, it doesn't. It's actually a very nice moment where Jack essentially says to Philip, you know what, we're friends, we're cool, you don't have to hide that stuff from me, you can give me, the heads up. And they hug it out, little tickling and everything. Again, a really, really nice moment. What I loved at the end was the kids finally get that substitute teacher that they want. The guy, I think his name is Mr. Venning, who I feel like we're going to be seeing again also. Comes in, bow tie wearing, Dead Poet Society, you can tell, quoting teacher who just loves AP Bio and is going to still this love in bio in these kids, and they can't wait. But of course, the curse that is Jack finds its way back into the classroom. And at one point, you're thinking to yourself, oh, these poor kids, I feel so bad for them. And then you realize Jack's been onto them from the very start. It didn't accident. That was all set up. That jelly bean Quidditch, which is pretty damn funny, and I agree with Durbin. I don't know how the hell it counts as Quidditch. It was all a setup from the very, very, very beginning, and Jack sees it. So in a lot of ways, he respects their game. And we start to wonder, how much of Jack is already starting to rub off on them. So, again, I like that. Jack is not Dennis Part 2, and I think the second episode really shows us that, and I appreciate for that. He's got serious psychological issues. The beginning segment with the possums and the driving over the car and everything like that, I didn't even want to get into that because that's just something you got to watch and really appreciate on your own. But the way that was handled beautifully. But with Dennis, you just see weak and sociopathic. With Jack, you see there's some redeeming qualities. This thing with Miles and what happened with the job and everything else has just wrecked this guy's soul. You can see it. And it's very interesting the way he is scraping and fighting to get his way through it. And that means, I guess, apparently taking a large iron wrench to several possums in what was just a mass murder on the driveway of his dead mom's house. I guess that's what it takes. But hey, to each their own. Therapy is a really weird, interesting thing. So yes, AP Bio, Episode 2, Teacher Jail, really enjoyed it. I think we're starting to get a more scope of the entire cast, which is good. I don't think it should be entirely on Glenn Howerton's shoulders. I'm looking forward to Episodes 3 and 4 this Thursday. We're going to also have recap and reviews for those two. Hope you guys appreciate it. If you agree, if you don't agree, if you like or don't like what I have to say, hit me up on social media or comment below. You can see down there. Thank you for joining me. Hope you guys can also join me for our normal Walking Dead and a number of other live blogs and recaps and reviews that we have coming up also. But thank you guys for joining me. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's AP Bio, and I'll see you guys again on Thursday. Take care, folks.